worship the blessings of God, or do you worship the God of blessings? You know what I'm trying to say? So if you come into the gospel wanting the blessings of God, good health and all this stuff, good health, prosperity, and all this great relationship, oh, my great wife, great kids, you know, I want great job and all this. And after a while, if we're not careful, we get sucked into, we're worshiping the blessings of God rather than God of blessings. See, God says, seek after me. God did not say, seek after my blessings. Seek me first, and all these things shall be given unto you. He did not say, seek all these things, blessings. You know, so it's very different. Same thing as grace. You see, our tendency is to express itself that we in the wrong way, because we can love grace because it gives us the all-satisfying God. But that shouldn't be the case. That would rather be like we love God because He brings grace into our lives. That's like, hey, if I go to church, if I love Jesus, if I'm a Christian, I go to heaven. If I love Jesus, my marriage is going to be stronger. I have kids that love Jesus, not like acting like fools on the streets on Sundays, gamblings and you know, whatever is going on, the internet is losing control. So I'm going to bring God alongside my great job and my plans and this book and all this thing. Bring all this so it's some grace in my life. You see, that's what we're doing. Then we'll be choosing the shadow rather than the real thing. We're choosing the replica over the real as shadow for substance. Because grace is only meant to press us to the real. The blessings of God is only meant to press us to the real. The reality is God. There's no other reality. If you've been thinking that, sorry, this is the gospel. The reality is God. God owes you nothing. God owes me, God owes us nothing. He is the ultimate reality. Love God with all your heart, all your mind. Grace is the means, God is the end. Peace with God. You know, right standing before God is one of the greatest ambitions in the world. So this is just going to have a greater understanding. My last point now is God's goal is our dependence on Him. I don't know whether it's written that way. Is there a point 5 there? Point 5 is God's grace. God's goal is our dependence on Him. You see that verse 4, He says, who gave Himself for our sins to rescue us from the present evil age according to the will of God our Father. Now there's a problem with that, because in Romans chapter 2 verse 5 it says this. You have Romans 2:5 there? And because of your stubbornness and your unrepentant heart, you're storing up wrath against yourself for the day of God's wrath, which when His righteous judgment will be revealed. You see, God is going to judge. Make no mistake about it. God doesn't want us to judge, but He will judge. He is the judge. He's the only judge. He hates sins. And you and I should hate sins. It's not like you and I should try to avoid sins. We should hate sins. We should love God. We're not just like God. We should love God. You see, the word rescue is huge, because we can absolutely do nothing for ourselves. Now let me ask you, parents, dads, moms, how would you love and lavish your child if you had no boundaries? How much would you love your children if you have no boundaries? How much would you go? How much would you give? How much would you give them? How much would you do for them? How generous would you be to your children if you have no boundaries? That's God's love for us. God's love for us has no boundaries. Right? Boundaries. God's love for us has no boundaries. His only goal, His goal is our dependence on Him. He wants us to depend on Him. It's not trying to grow up to be independent of His grace. God lavishes. Lavish means generously gives. Lavish. He gives generously because Jesus satisfied the judgment of God. God will never give you all this thing without Jesus, because Jesus satisfied the requirement of the punishment. As I said, if God doesn't punish, He ceases to be God, because He's a God of righteousness. He has to do it. He can't say, oh, you know what? They are all my children now. I just there's a back door coming through the back door. He can't, because He's just lying to Himself. So, because Jesus come forward and satisfy, He lavishes on us. You know, God cannot let sin go to heaven. Did you know that? God is not going to let sin go to heaven. If you've seen how many of you have seen the Passion?